All right, so today what we're going to do is we're going to create a modular environment asset for Gladiotron. So recently I created a simple um, block-in scene, but what I realized is that what would be useful is to have like something more modular to work with. And I've done a few like tile sets for 2D games, but what I want to do here is make something that is useful for both 2D and 3D. And I saw the textures of some of the early like 3D games as people were transitioning from 2D games to 3D games. I saw that the way they handled textures was interesting. It was a mixture of regular texturing and using like something more tile set based. So what I'm going to try to do here is I'm going to make a tile. So this will tile in every direction. It'll be seamless tile in the center, and then I'll have adjacent to it an edge tile, and then on top of it another tile. So if I were looking at a block, for example, from the side, on the top I'd have it look like a grass texture or something with maybe some petals. I'm just using this as an example. We're not going to do grass necessarily. On the side we'd have like these grass hanging over the edge, and then in here we'd have like the rocks and the dirt or whatever. Okay, so we want to basically handle this with a UV map that is mapped out in a logical way. Okay, so ideally we're going to take this block and we're going to divvy it up like so. We have a tileable texture in here. We can reuse whatever textures are on this side, So we'll need a unique texture here that can tile indefinitely left and right. We'll need a unique texture here for the corner. Actually, this whole corner piece will be its own unique texture element. On the top, we'll need another one here, which is going to tile in every direction. And then we'll need the bottom piece corners, assuming I have like some kind of unique treatments to the bottom of this form. Okay, so hopefully that kind of makes sense, but that's what we're aiming at for now. We could always build on this afterwards, and hopefully it will become somewhat clear what I'm doing as I do it. So I will need, imagine, if I'm doing a tile set, usually you're going to have something like this. So you're going to have your center tile, which tiles every direction like so. So this is for a 2D game, it's a 2D side-scroller game. You'd have your grass here. You'd have your grass here, which turns into your wall piece. And then you'd have like your ceiling, whatever is happening for your ceiling down here. Okay, this has to tile left and right. This has to tile up and down. This has to tile left and right. The center piece has to tile indefinitely. The corner pieces are all unique. Okay. This piece has to tile up and down as well. Okay, so we're going to try to merge these two concepts. I'm sure it's not new. I know people are doing it, but I think this will be really useful for the game that I want to make. And I'm wondering if like Minecraft does something like this. I have no idea. But anyways, let us get started. So I'm going to just close that off. I might have to change something here as I'm thinking about it, because math is going to be kind of important. This file that I have currently is 2046 by 2040, sorry, 4096 by 4096 square, pixels square. I don't know if that's divisible by 3, because what I would ultimately like to have is 9 quadrants in here, right? So that I can make my center tile, my corner tiles, etc., etc. Let us just quickly check. So I might have to create this first and then move it and adjust the size after. Let me quickly check if for lucky it is, and I should know the math, but let's see. Calculator. Anyone here good with math? 4096 divided by 3. Perfect. What? No, I did times 3. 4096 divided by 3. No. We don't get a clean number. I imagine because it's an even number, yeah, I should just know that. It's not going to work. Or would it? No, it could work. 20, 48 divided by 3. 1024 divided by 3. No. I don't think this is going to work. 12 divided by 3. Yeah. So it doesn't look like we're going to get an easily divisible number with using powers of 2 if we want divided by 3. So what will we do? We'll divide it up into quadrants, and we'll just work within one of the, within some of the quadrants. So let's do that. Okay, so here I've got a 4096 by 4096. What I'm going to do is make 10K tiles. So I will go to Edit, Preferences, Guides, Grids, and Slices, and grid. So one grid line every 1 inch. Okay, so that's okay. So what I'm going to have to do now is make my file format here 4 inches by 4 inches. So the way I can do that is I have to resample the image here. So I'm going to go to image size. I'm going to uncheck, let's say resample, but I have to uncheck resample here. I have to change this to 4 by 4. So once I make it 4 inches by 4 inches, it automatically adjusts the resolution to make it 1024 by 1024. So now if I show my grid by pressing Control apostrophe, I get 1, 2, 3, 4 grids across. What I'm going to do is basically within a section like this, I'll make my tile set. Okay, so my central tile will be here, and then the next tile will be here, so on and so forth. So let's make a brand new layer and get started. I should also bring in some ref environment. So let's see if we can get something interesting here that we can build off of. I will also bring in some concept art that I've done, but it's nothing like super crazy. So this is kind of interesting. I like some of what I'm seeing on that. Oh, this is cool. So I will copy this. I use this for inspiration. Go back to Photoshop. We'll file new. Paste that. Let us also drag this over to the side here. And I will bring in a roughs. Just open all these. I want to see grids on these. So what I'm going to also do is look at some of these and just see if I can kind of pick out something that I can use as a base. I've built some of these already, but they were not modular in of themselves. So I'll go with something like this, actually. That's kind of a nice one. Just Control C. Control V. And image rotation 90 degrees. Just adjust this here. Okay, ideally I'd add some like colors and everything like that to this. So I have a bit of a better idea of what this ought to look like, but this is good enough. Just rotate this. Control T, rotate. So it looks like we're looking at it from the right angle. Alright, so the next thing we want to do, we want to try to break this down as well as we can and try to think about how we might make some of these tiles. So what I'm going to do here, I will do central. Actually, what I could do is I could make a bigger tile set, I guess, but central tile. But I'll just go with a regular 3x3 as a starting base. So with this central tile, what I'll do is create a marquee selection here. Just drag. It should automatically snap to the corners of these boxes. And then I can basically press Control Backspace and it will fill with my background color, or Alt Backspace to fill with my foreground color. I'll just press Alt Backspace so it turns black, so I know for a fact that I have this tile spoken for. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to go Convert to Smart Object. And then I'm going to double click on the thumbnail, and that will load the smart object here. The other thing I'm going to do is with this selected, I'm going to go to View. I'm going to go to or Window, Range. I'm going to go to 3 up stacked. So I'll have 2 on one side. So I can arrange these the way I want. Make sure the things I want to see are constantly visible. Just for my own sanity, I'm just going to put these two images together. Normally what I would do is also create what's called an inspiration board, where we put all our reference images into one kind of file, so that I don't have to go around looking for things and everything's right there. This new version of Photoshop has changed the way you scale things. It automatically constrains the proportions, but if I hold down Shift, then it will modify the aspect ratio, which is opposite to the previous versions of Photoshop. It's just weird that they changed it. But anyways, so we have that. Just block that out. Just get rid of some of this. Okay, and let us change this now. So we're going to take this and put this down here. Okay, so this is in the bottom right is the tile that we're actually working on. Top right is our reference. And then on the left, that's going to be our entire tile set. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is basically start creating a central tile, something that will tile vertically and left and right. Okay, so what I'm going to start with, I'll get some of my brushes. window. Filter, also window, brushes. Oh, I already had it open. Window, brushes, so it's down here. So I have a bunch of brushes that I've recently picked up. Actually, looks like they're not on here. I'm just going to pull in one of my brush sets. I'm going to go to import brushes and try to navigate to where I put those. I believe this is it. File. Import brushes. Let's try this one. So I think these are brushes that I must have gotten somewhere. I don't know exactly where. I had created a set of brushes, but I'm truthfully not great with using them all the time. I don't always even use Photoshop, but okay. So we have this. Let's go with this brush. This is a nice brush. So we'll use this as our base. And let's get a little bit of variety going in there. The next thing I want to do with this, though, is I want to make sure that it offsets properly. So this is the key way to make a tiling texture. Go to Filter, Other, Offset. I'll offset it by 50% of the width, which is 512 in this case, and 512. So 50% of the width and the height. So if you remember, each of these sections is 1024 by 1024, so I'm just basically offsetting it by half here. And you see the noise that's kind of been introduced from those corners. I just want to find ways to remove that so I have a nice uniform brush. When doing that, I have to be careful that I do not paint over the corners or over the edges, otherwise I'll reintroduce some new problem areas. So with that, I will offset it again, filter, offset. Just one more time. Okay. All right, so that's good. So what I'm going to do now is create a new layer here. And now I'm going to add some paneling, right? So I want to have like some of these panels. I just have to make sure again that these will tile properly left to right and everything. So I'm going to change the color of this and we'll go with something like that. I don't want to go too crazy with this, because otherwise it will be too apparent that I'm having like a pattern that repeats. But I want to have something. I want to keep it relatively simple. And let's go horizontal here. So at this level, should hook up. Krita is actually better for this part actually, just for creating that initial tiling texture. That's okay. Let's go with this. Let's go with this. And then this. And then get rid of this. I just have no idea how this is going to look once I have a whole bunch of these all together. Okay, so now I'm just start breaking it up just a little bit. Not a fan of that. So I had some nice brushes that I made, and I don't know what I did with them. Oh, maybe these are them. Yeah, these might be them actually. So the brushes I made, they have a little bit of a color variation on them. Actually, I'm not seeing that on these. So these might not be the brushes I made. Maybe. Yeah, I think this might be. So I'm just trying to make it a little less kind of obvious what's going on here. I do still want it to hook up. I don't want to miss Andres if he's on his way. Did you hear from him at all? Or Andres? I sometimes would be, but no, not today. I gotta help somebody with something today. I'll see him next time. It's okay. Okay, so the problem that we may run into here is that this might generate a obviously kind of repeating texture, which we do want to try to be careful of and try to avoid if possible. Okay, so we're gonna have to see how this turns out. So let me put some rivets in here. Okay, but nothing too crazy. We could overlay some other kind of noise and textures and stuff. We'll go with this for now. I suggest more of a hand-painted kind of look. And kind of go from there. What I'm going to do, actually, I'm just going to make this look like pushed in a little bit just by darkening it. And I will move forward after this. Alright, so let's see what that gives us. If I offset it. First I'm going to have to merge this down. Okay. Filter, other, offset. I can't see any problems in the middle, so I think we're okay. We can probably just go with that as our texture. Okay, so we can approach this either way. We just save this. If I save that, you'll see it updates in here. Okay, and then I can take this and I can duplicate it to get a sense of what that might look like throughout my game, or what the object might look like. I don't know if I'm thrilled with the horizontal element. I think the vertical line works pretty well, but the horizontal thing might be a little bit too much. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Let's quickly just on a new layer in here. Here, sorry. Let's eliminate that. Or de-emphasize it. Save that. See if that looks any better. I'll just leave it in. I think I'll just leave it in. Okay, so save that. And what we'll do over here, now we'll start creating the more other unique kind of components. So move this here. So I'll call this one top. Actually, first what I'll do is I'll rasterize it. Okay, so it's not a smart object anymore. It has no link to anything. And I'll just rename it top. I'll rename it top, yep. Sorry. Top tile. And this one, I'll call this bottom tile. And I'll right click on this and rasterize the layer. I'll turn this into a new smart object. Okay, I'll double click on it. It's going to look like it's the same thing, but it's different. And I'm going to use this as my bottom tile. So I'll have a unique treatment at the bottom edge. So for this one, I will drop. Do I need this anymore? No. All I worry about for this one is that it hooks up to the top. Okay, and that it will hook up left to right. So for this one, I'm actually going to get rid of a lot of this stuff that I have going. Go back to my essential brushes here. So I have to be careful that I don't ruin this top edge. I have to actually be really careful that I don't do that. Otherwise it will break. It won't read properly anymore. So to be safe, I'm just going to go on a layer above and then just paint some of this stuff out. And at the bottom, I can decide what it's going to look like. If I want, I can have this. The only thing I have to worry about at the bottom is that it hooks up left to right. Okay, so this will hook up with that, right? Got a little slightly different hue going on here. Okay, so we want to make sure this hooks up left to right. Again, we ideally don't want to have stuff that's too obviously patterny, but we do want to break it up a little bit. So we don't want stuff to look too much like it's repeating all over the place. So we'll try to make it look like it's more so the way everything was designed. So let's just Control S to save that. Just see that it hooks up, so it does hook up properly. Probably have done a little bit more with that. I'd like to try that potentially. Maybe I'll do it in the top one. I'll make it have a little bit more going on. So we'll save that for our bottom piece. The other thing we have to check with our bottom piece, we're just making sure it tiles left to right. So we'll go to other offset. We'll turn our vertical offset to 0. And we'll see how it tiles horizontally. And it looks like it should be good. So we'll just undo that. I will take this piece and just put it adjacent to itself. So you have a sense again of what this is actually going to look like as these pieces kind of come together. Okay, so far so good. So I will need a few more pieces. As I'm doing this, I'm realizing this is a relatively large undertaking, even with like it being a fairly small and simple asset. And I'm not even like going too crazy with the textures here, because I'll still have to hook up the UVs, set up the UVs and everything like that, and the geometry to support this. But let's try to get one side going and then go from there. Because I'll have to make this tile set, and then I'll also have to make a tile set for the top of the object, and I'll also have to make a tile set for the bottom. And if I want each side to be unique, then I have to do that as well. And so it's a bit of a process. All right. So how much time do we have? Okay. So now we'll do the same thing for this. We'll turn the top tile into a smart object. And we'll double click on that. Just bring it in here. So now we're going to do something similar again. Oops. We'll knock these guys out left and right. And we'll have this basically continue like so. Okay. So that's relatively simple, but let's look at our reference images. Does that go with what we've established there? Kind of. What if we did something like this? So just taking some of the visual kind of language out of that and just pulling it into here. Okay. Alright. So yeah. Awesome. Let's get one more going here. This might be like too noisy because it's got way more going on and everything else, but we'll see how it ends up looking. So if we look at all this together, it's not too bad. Actually, I kind of like it. It's got a good concentration of detail towards the top. It probably would be nice to get some kind of graphic going across, like this border here. But it is not too bad. I will darken this. It's a little bit better. All right, so that's what our overall object will look like. What if I want a horizontal line going on that? Yeah, I think so. Okay. All right, so we have that. So now we can start putting our texture together. If we wanted to go less ambitious, we could just make these the edges as well. But why don't what we really should do is make sure that, excuse me, we go ahead and make this piece and this piece. Make these unique as well. And let's just do a couple tests. This one has to tile vertically, and we already established that it does, so that's good. This one tiles horizontally, and it does. Maybe a little bit of a seam going there. We do. Do we? Yeah. So it doesn't quite hook up, but I think we can get away with it for now. And yeah, so that would be a kind of interesting looking block that we could definitely use in our project. And then even, you know, extend this further with like decals and things like that. All right, so let us continue. Just turn our grid back on. Just make sure these are sitting in the right spot. Yep. So we'll do this piece next. We'll call this side tile. And oops, we will rasterize it and then reconvert it to a smart object. And the reason we have to reconvert it to a smart object is because until we do that, it's just an instance of this previous one. Okay, so any change we make to this one will be reapplied to this one. But we want this to be its own unique element. Okay, we will call this one top corner tile. And we'll call this one bottom corner tile. All right, so we will rasterize each of these. Rasterize, and then later we'll reconvert them to smart objects. So let's just double click on this. So we have that. And for this one, the same as we've done before, we want to basically change it up so that it's going to have a unique side. Ideally, we'll have to do the same thing for this other side too, so it doesn't stop. But the power and the advantage of this is that we can start making like pretty big pieces and then just kind of make it as large or small as we want when we get into 3D. So I will take this and just adjust the side here. And it can actually look however I want it to look, so I can do something way cooler. Do something maybe like that. And all I have to worry about with this one again is that it hooks up properly on the side to that central pile, and then that it hooks up left or top to bottom with itself. I'll save that. The side piece is kind of interesting, maybe a little bit too much going on, but it's an interesting start. Let's tweak this a little bit. There's this thing you can do edit, and you can do fade brush tool, I believe it is. What is it? I used to be able to do this. Edit. Oh, fade. I think it's not working because I applied something else after, or because I saved it. Okay, actually I kind of like that, so I'll just go with that. And I just want to break this up just a little bit, so carry like a visual bridge from here to here. not in the right spot this time here. Make sure it's in the right spot. Yeah, the last thing I did doesn't help. Yeah, that's better. I'll just do this. So I think that works. The only thing I would do probably is just go like this. Just get a cleaner brush. A little too much. This should be updating. Over here it's not. It's weird. Huh. Oh, what was I saying? That's really weird. What? That's weird. Very strange. Close this. Take this and convert it to a smart object. Okay, so we have that, and then the next hard part that we have to do is you have to blend from this piece to this piece, right? So we have to hook this up into our corner piece here, and then same thing into our corner piece here. So that would look like, I'll just do it right in here, and hopefully this doesn't mess me up too much. Probably want to carry this all the way to the top. In some way. Maybe at each time it gets a little thinner. It's kind of neat. And then you do the same thing going down. Maybe this one gets wider. All right, so there's one side. So this would basically be a piece of my texture. Then I'll have to do the other side as well. Okay, so basically I have to do these three, get those working in a similar fashion, and then kind of go from there. The easy way I could do it is basically flop these. Oh, this, sorry, I didn't even completely finish this. And this is going to take a little bit longer to fully realize. So I will probably hold off here. And then at a later time we can get into the actual texture implementation. Probably what I'm going to do once this video is done, I'm going to continue to investigate just working with coding and in Unreal. But this will give me a nice kind of approach, a nice kind of library of elements that I can work with as I flesh things out. And it would be neat because we could even have destructible blocks that on the inside, once we blow up a piece of it, we could see that there's on the inside piece, there's still a nice texture. So it'd almost be like, to extent, kind of like Minecraft or something like that, where you have those tileable, kind of almost like what you would get like in a 2D game where it's block based, but it's in a 3D game. Okay, and I think that would be kind of neat, especially since we are going for something kind of retro. It would be neat to have like some environments that are a little bit more structured this way. And again, when you're making a tile set, you can always have like other kinds of tiles too that that look a little bit different. And I think for these unique pieces, I'm probably just going to approach it this way because this way is actually way easier and faster than how I've done it in the past. And then I can just kind of work to clean it up after the fact. So once I've got my main pieces, so the center piece, this piece, this piece, this piece, the corner pieces are relatively straightforward. The only other piece I would have to figure out is what's going to go on this side, and then I'll have to work out those other corner pieces as well. But all right, so I think we're going to wrap here, guys. But hopefully this has been somewhat informative and helpful. I think we don't really see the payoff, unfortunately, until we bring it into 3D and see how it hooks up with the textures. But Mahmoud, you can kind of see where we would be going with this? Okay. So if I just take this and do Control Shift C, Control Shift V, delete, no, I'm not going to delete that. I'm going to do the same thing for this bottom corner. Take this, Control Shift C, Control Shift V. So now I have my two corner pieces here. I can delete this, and that. And I'll just rename these bottom corner tile and top corner tile, and I'll just turn them into smart objects. Okay, so I have a nice kind of foundation to work off of, And, oh, I just realized something. Did I mess this up? No, this works. Okay. So if this group of tiles, this, and this, if we were to duplicate those across, then we would have something like this. And so you see already like how this starts to look more manufactured and like something that we could use. This spot down here is noticing like a pretty dead spot. So what I would probably do in game is maybe have a second piece of geometry that covers that, or use some kind of decal to project a new or unique texture on it, maybe some graffiti or something like that, or some damage or scratches or something like that. Yeah, so with this, just move these to the top here. I rasterize each of these layers. And then I want to basically do the same thing again, where I would give them a unique treatment based on their position. So what time are we at here? So we'll wrap here though, guys, because this is kind of going a little bit late. At the very least, if you're making a 2D game, this is a way you can make like a set of tiles that you can use. In which case, this would be like the ground floor that your character would walk on. So your character would like walk on this. It's like tiles indefinitely, and then when you come to the edge, these cross here. Then you would use your corner piece here, and then it would just kind of work. Okay, so that's how you would do it if you're doing a 2D game. We're going to adapt this workflow to work with geometry in a 3D game that's set up in a certain way. So that is basically that for now. We will continue on with this, but I'm going to continue to dig into coding. For today's purposes, because I'm not like super fluent with it yet, I am not going to stumble through it, on video. I might again in the future, but it's good to break it up with something where it goes a little smoother. Okay, so we'll stop here, and I'll catch up with you guys next time. All right, bye.